All right, we got a little project here. We are putting in a new service building there. So we're taking these trees down and getting these out of the way. So we're gonna take advantage of a bunch of our equipment here. We've already been using this mini excavator, that U55. That's a great stumping machine. That thing's got a lot of power. So we pulled out all the stumps, cut the trees down, pulled out all the stumps. We're going to be sticking all these trees through the chipper. Some of these logs we're going to keep and we'll run those through our log splitter. So, for this project, we're using a mini X. We're going to use the log splitter. We'll use the chippers. And of course, then we'll come back in with the skid steer and grade this all out and make short work of this thing. Now, what I like is using a mini skid with a grapple on it. If you're doing any sort of tree work, landscape work, using a mini skid with a grapple is a fantastic way to move your materials because you're always on and off the machine. So we'll get that auger off and put a grapple on it and then make short work of moving this material over to the chipper. All right, here's a case where you got to be a little careful with what you're putting through a chipper. So this little tree, we just pulled this out by the roots. We didn't even cut it down. But you don't want to run that through. See, it's all dirt, right? You start running this stuff through and you'll destroy your chipper. So make sure that before you put this thing through, you chop off the root ball or that little root end, whatever you want to call it. As you can see, we're putting a big dent in this project. We've got all those stumps out. We've got a big part of this brush pile gone, trees cut up. What we're doing is we're actually going to be using that wood. So we're chopping up the logs for firewood and we'll split them later. And then with this stuff, we're just getting rid of this. And then it brings us to an interesting contrast, the different tools we have. So I like using a mini skid because I can get on and off that thing real easily. But then sometimes if you're getting big loads, obviously a skid steer is going to be a better option because the grapple is much larger. So it all depends, what your work conditions are. The disadvantage to the skid steer is getting in and out, climbing over that grapple, where this thing, the mini skid, is so easy just to get on and off. And then as far as these chippers, both will do fine for this type of treetop. It'll just pull that whole branch in and make short work of it. I've been using this one mostly, and the reason I've been using the Morbark is because it's gas powered and it's clutchless. I just press a button, I start throwing things in, and it's very simple. Now obviously running a clutch is not a big deal, it's just a couple more steps, but here in this case we got this bigger log. It's all kind of wood we don't really want to keep for firewood. You can see it's got a bunch of bugs in it. So the big advantage to this one, besides having more horsepower, is this wider opening and the way the feed works. So instead of just having one drum pushing down, this has two drums that spread out. So it'll take a lot more unusual shaped wood. It'll take bigger wood, and it's just much stronger of a unit. So if you're looking for a whole tree where you want to get rid of the logs like this, then the Vermeer is definitely the way to go. It's going to do a much better job for you. If you're doing tops like this and you want to take those logs somewhere else, then you know, frankly, either one's going to do the job for you. Again, I'm only using this one because I'm starting, stopping, starting, stopping. So it's just faster and easier for me to press the button and throw things in, versus there I got to start it up, I got to engage the clutch, and again, not a big deal. It's just one more step. So if you're doing it on, off, on, off, on, off, you know, we're just doing this by ourselves, we're not doing mass production, then this is just an easier thing to do. If you're doing your own property, you might want to just go with this. But again, if you're doing big stuff or it's unusually shaped, you definitely want to go with the Vermeer, because it's 135 horsepower, much bigger feed mechanism, much stronger unit, and it'll do a big job for you. All right, so I think you can see the big difference between this unit at 135 horsepower diesel, 18-inch capacity, and this one, which is a 75 horsepower and gas-driven. Again, both good machines. It all depends on what your job is. And this one is a little less maintenance. I mean, a little less startup time, because I just press the button and go. That one, I had to do it. I didn't do the clutch right the first time, so I had to do it twice. And again, it's not a big deal. It just takes a little bit more time. So if I were doing all tops, you can see just on the piles, those two piles are from this machine, and I haven't been using this one as much because I'm not doing the logs. So that's basically, you know, pick your tool for the appropriate job that you have, and either one will do fine as long as you choose the right one for the job. If you have all small stuff, you can still choose this one. It'll go faster, and it'll get through it quicker. It depends on how much volume you have, I guess. But the other thing you'll notice on these is the difference in opening of the throat. See, if you get some like weird shaped wood, it's not going to go through. it's not going to go through there because that's hard. That's a hard, you know, let's say fixed opening. Where when you come back to this one, again, you can see just how big that opening is. And those wheels retract back. So you can get a really odd shaped log in there. Even if it's not a big log, it'll just make it so you don't have to cut it with the chainsaw. It'll just pull it in and grind it up. All right, we're gonna go get the rest of that pile, and I'll see you soon.